I'm Natalie Harper, 32, and this Thanksgiving, I learned that sometimes family doesn't lock you out by accident. They do it by design. The night it started, my phone rang at 12:03 a.m. I used to believe midnight calls meant someone was in trouble. I didn't know. I was the one about to be erased. One wire transfer, $8,000. I thought I was saving my dad's life. Turns out, I was funding their dream vacation and my own exclusion from Thanksgiving dinner. I folded napkins into maple leaves, bought a turkey pan I couldn't afford, planned every course like I was earning my seat at their table. But when I called to confirm their arrival time, they told me there was no seat. Not for me. And the worst part? They didn't even flinch while saying it. Not my mom. Not my dad. Not even my brother Logan, the one who got a brand new car right after I emptied my savings. But here's the thing. They thought I'd stay quiet, that I'd swallow the hurt, like I always did. What they didn't expect was that I kept the receipts, the booking dates, the payment confirmations, the timeline that didn't lie, even when they did. Stick around, because by the time they showed up at my door, dressed for war, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. And for the first time, I didn't apologize for standing up. Before I take you back to the night of that first call, tell me, where are you watching from? And have you ever learned the hard way that sometimes family treats you worse than strangers? The screen lit up in the dark room, casting a faint glow against the ceiling. Mom. Natalie blinked, disoriented, unsure if she'd been asleep at all or just drifting beneath a thin layer of rest. She let it ring once more before answering. Nat. Her mother's voice came through in a whisper, breathy, urgent, just short of theatrical. Your dad. He collapsed. Natalie sat upright. What? Where are you? St. Joseph's. We're in the ER. I didn't know who else to call. Of course you did, Natalie wanted to say. She pulled on yesterday's jeans and grabbed her car keys. Outside, Chicago was still half asleep, but her mind raced 3 states ahead. By 6:07 a.m., she had driven straight through the night and walked into the fluorescent fatigue of a hospital corridor in Somerset, New Jersey. She spotted her mother, seated with legs crossed tightly at the ankle, looking like someone who had cried and then carefully reapplied her lipstick. Diane stood up and folded Natalie into a hug. He's stable now. They're doing scans. Natalie pulled back slightly. What happened? They think it's his heart again. Something about arterial narrowing. They recommend this procedure. Some catheter thing. Less invasive, but insurance only covers part of it. Natalie felt her throat tighten. How much are we talking? Diane looked away. Mom. 8,000. Diane said quickly. Up front. They won't schedule it otherwise. Natalie exhaled, rubbing her temple. Isn't there a rainy day fund? Dad always said, Gone. Diane interrupted. Medical bills, house stuff, Logan's, you know. As if summoned, Logan emerged from around the corner. He was wearing joggers and a Yankees hoodie, neither of which looked cheap. Hey, Nat, he said, smiling thinly. Rough night? She looked at him. You're here. I drove in when Mom called. Took some time off. He glanced toward the vending machines. Been a rough quarter. Diane shot him a look. He shrugged. Natalie didn't reply. She'd heard this vague language before. Off, downturn, rough patch. It was Logan's lifelong dialect. I don't know if I can, Natalie said quietly. That's my emergency fund. Diane clasped her hands. Frank asked for you. He keeps saying your name. Natalie blinked back something hot. Is he awake? He was. Maybe still. He asked if you were coming. Her voice dropped. He said he just wants to see you happy before anything happens. The words struck hard. It wasn't the guilt. It was the memory. Frank on the porch when she was 7, bandaging her scraped knees, saying, "I just want to see you happy, Natty." Now it was a line in a hospital room. A hook. Natalie sat in her car for 12 minutes before calling the bank. She spoke clearly, gave the routing numbers, confirmed the amount. $8,000. By noon, it was done. She stayed through the afternoon. Frank was sedated. Diane floated in and out with styrofoam coffee cups. Logan disappeared twice for calls. By 4 p.m., Natalie's eyes burned and her body hummed with exhaustion. "I'll head back tomorrow," she said, rising from the couch in their living room. Diane nodded vaguely. "Drive safe, sweetheart." Natalie crossed the foyer, hand on the doorknob, when Logan's voice stopped her. "You really saved the day. Again." She turned. He was leaned against the staircase, arms crossed, mouth curled just enough to register. It wasn't gratitude. It was amusement. "You're welcome," she replied flatly. But as she stepped outside into the crisp autumn air, her fingers trembled on the keys. The wind didn't feel clean. It felt like something was shifting. And her unease lingered. "I bought a turkey pan, folded napkins into maple leaves, and even borrowed chairs. Because this year I thought I was hosting Thanksgiving. I didn't know I wasn't even invited. The apartment smelled like cinnamon sticks and ambition." Natalie moved through the kitchen in socked feet, arranging her makeshift table setup like it was a showroom. She had sourced a secondhand oak table off Facebook Marketplace, laid out burnt orange placemats, and meticulously shaped napkins into delicate maple leaves, following a YouTube tutorial. Monica had laughed when she practiced it at the office, but Natalie had been determined. This dinner matters. As she stood admiring the setup, imagining Diane's polite smile, Frank's nod of approval, Logan pretending not to notice her effort, Natalie tapped the phone icon and called home. Diane picked up on the fourth ring. "Natalie, hi, honey." "Hey, Mom," Natalie said, stirring cranberry sauce on the stove. "I just wanted to check on your arrival time next Thursday. Are you still planning to get here by noon?" There was a pause. "About that," Diane began, voice tight around the edges. "Thanksgiving's been slightly rearranged." Natalie blinked. "Rearranged?" "We're having it at Logan's this year. He has more flexibility and, well, he offered." Natalie turned off the burner. "I've been prepping for 2 weeks." "I know, sweetie, and we so appreciate it. It's just that Logan's place is more centrally located, and he got that new sound system installed. It'll be a fun atmosphere." "Sound system?" Natalie repeated. "Are you serious?" "We just want something a little more relaxed this year," Diane said softly. Natalie's voice faltered. "Can I still bring something? Dessert? Stuffing?" "The menu's already set," Diane replied too quickly. "We've got it all under control." Natalie stared at the wall. A small streak of cranberry had stained the stove edge, and she scrubbed it with unnecessary force. "You mean I'm not coming?" Diane hesitated. "You've been intense lately, after the hospital and all that. Your father thinks—" "Put him on." The rustling of a phone passed through the line. Then Frank's voice, low and gravelly. "Natalie, you're excluding me from Thanksgiving," she said, ice under her tone. Frank didn't flinch. "We need a lighter mood this year. Your brother's been through a lot." Natalie's throat clenched. "So have I." There was a pause. "It's just dinner," Frank said. "You can have your own next year." He didn't wait for her response before handing the phone back. Diane's voice was sugar-laced discomfort. "We'll miss you." Natalie ended the call. She stood in the silence of her kitchen for a long time. The only sound was the soft hum of her fridge. Slowly, she removed the turkey pan from the counter and slid it back into the cabinet. Later that night, curled up on the couch with a blanket she hadn't realized she needed, she opened Instagram. Just to distract herself. Logan's post was the first to appear. A selfie in front of a shiny black Honda Civic. Showroom sparkle still on the windows. New whip. Thanks to the best parents ever. the caption read, followed by fire emojis and a winking face. She tapped the photo, enlarging it. The dealership sticker was still on the license plate holder. She zoomed in on the logo. Honda Civic, 2024. Current model. Base price hovering close to what she'd wired to the hospital weeks ago. The first comment was Diane's. "You earned it, sweetheart." The second was Frank's. "Proud of you, son." Natalie stared at those words until they blurred. Her phone buzzed gently against her hand. A text to Monica formed without effort. "I think I know where the money went. I gave them my savings to save his life. They used it to book ocean view suites in Venice." Natalie sat at the kitchen table, staring at her untouched tea. The steam had long vanished, but her stomach was too tight to drink. Her phone lay face up beside the mug, screen glowing with the familiar blue of Diane's Facebook page. She hadn't meant to fall down this rabbit hole. It started with a simple scroll, searching for something, anything that might explain the widening crack in her family. Instead, she found a post dated October 19th. A dream finally coming true. "Italy. Here we come." Attached was a blurry selfie of Diane and Frank in front of a travel poster, grinning like teenagers. The caption continued, "Ocean views, pasta for days, and the Roman sun with my two favorite boys." Natalie blinked. Two favorite boys? The comments were even more revealing. Logan. "Can't wait to meet you guys in Rome. Thanks for covering the train." Frank. "Venice first, then we'll eat our way down the coast." Diane. "We booked the balcony suite." Natalie scrolled faster, heart thudding with a slow, sick rhythm. Venice, Rome, balcony suites. Not a single mention of doctors, of recovery, of caution. She pulled up her banking app. October 13th, $8,000 wire transfer. October 19th, her parents' dream trip post. 6 days. She rubbed her temples. Something didn't add up, or maybe everything did. Natalie opened her contacts and tapped the name she hadn't dialed in years, Rachel Lim. They'd shared dorms, late-night ramen, and a love for spreadsheets. Now Rachel worked at Meridian Travel. Rachel? It's Natalie Harper. Oh my God. Nat? Wow, it's been forever. Natalie forced a smile into her voice. "I need a weird favor. Quick question about a booking. Do you have a trip on file under the name Diane Harper? Frank Harper?" Rachel paused. "Hold on. Yes. Italy. 2 adults, 10-day coastal tour. Booked October 14th, paid in full." Natalie's stomach dropped. "Paid. With what card?" Looks like a Visa ending in 9821. Natalie closed her eyes. That was hers. Her emergency card. "I think I helped them set up their travel profile last Christmas," she said, her voice dry. "Did they put the reservation under their names?" "Nope. All under yours. You're the account holder, payer, and point of contact." Actually, weird thing. They requested that emails go to your address too. Natalie gripped the edge of the table. "Can it be refunded?" Rachel hesitated. "You'd lose a few hundred in cancellation fees, but yeah, 90% back if we process it today. Want me to do it?" Natalie didn't answer. Her eyes burned. Her hands had started to tremble. "Nat?" She cleared her throat. "Let me call you back." She hung up and stared at the silent phone on the table. Her reflection swam in the dark screen. Wide-eyed, lips pressed thin, disbelief hardening into something more volatile. They had booked the trip the day after she transferred the money. She pressed her palms against her eyes and tried to breathe. It didn't help. She reached for her phone again, opened the old spreadsheet she'd built for them last Christmas. "Someday," they'd said, "when the time is right." Apparently, right meant lying to her face. She opened messages and typed Monica's name, but she didn't send anything. Instead, she whispered into the quiet, "They planned the trip before he even went under the knife. If I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving, then they didn't deserve to be invited to Italy. With my money." Natalie sat at her desk, blinds half drawn against the gray November sky. The air was brittle, charged with that strange, still quiet before the holidays, when everyone was too busy traveling or preparing to notice anything out of place. Except her. She noticed everything now. Her cursor hovered over the Zoom icon. One click. That was all it took to shift power. Rachel's face appeared, framed by a cluttered corkboard and a coffee mug that read, "I have a spreadsheet for that." "Ready when you are," Rachel said, a headset slung over her shoulder. Natalie's voice was steady. "Cancel the whole thing. Flights, hotels, tours, anything booked under my name or card." Rachel blinked. "You're sure?" "Yes." Rachel didn't press. "Okay, processing now." Natalie watched as Rachel clicked through screens. Her friend's face was professional, but her eyes flickered with something unspoken. Maybe sympathy, maybe quiet admiration. "You'll get an email within the hour. Refund goes back to the card on file, minus the $312 cancellation fee." Natalie nodded. "Fine. I'll forward you the receipt, timestamp, and cancellation confirmations. Please do, I'll need documentation." Rachel tilted her head. "Are you expecting fallout?" "I'm preparing for it." Natalie ended the call and sat back. A few minutes later, her inbox pinged. Subject, Meridian Travel, cancellation confirmed. She opened it, scanned the attachments, then created a folder. Family travel, terminated. Inside, she saved every PDF, screenshot, and receipt. Then she clicked print. Hard copies, just in case. That afternoon, her phone buzzed with a notification. Logan's Instagram story. A blurry image of an empty suitcase on a bed. Bold white text plastered across it. "Someone just ruined our family's memories. Hope you're proud." Natalie didn't flinch. By 4:23 p.m., Diane called. The ringtone played its full loop before Natalie declined. The voicemail arrived seconds later. Diane's voice trembled. "Natalie, I can't believe you would do this. Your father's been stressed. Logan was so excited. You didn't need to go this far. Call me back. Please." At 6:12 p.m., an email popped in. From Frank. Subject, behavior unbecoming. She opened it. "Natalie, we are disappointed in you. This act was childish and vindictive. Family does not retaliate." Dad. No greeting, no signature. Just that cold, efficient judgment he'd always wielded like a scalpel. She closed the laptop. Her hand hovered over the phone again. She searched her contacts and found one she hadn't touched in years. Carolyn Harper. Aunt Carolyn. The cautionary tale. The one who'd fought for her piece of Grandma Ruth's estate and got labeled toxic for it. Diane used to say, "Don't end up like Carolyn." Always alone. Always angry. Natalie tapped forward. She sent the emails, the screenshots, the receipt. No message attached. 10 minutes later, a text buzzed back. Carolyn Harper, welcome to freedom. Natalie let out a sound she couldn't define. Half breath, half laugh. She looked around her apartment. It wasn't filled with holiday warmth. It was filled with something better. Clarity. Her eyes drifted back to the screen. Lines of confirmation, cancellation, refund. No fireworks, no confetti. Just facts. She thought she'd feel guilty, but it wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. Her phone vibrated again. Voicemail. She played it. Logan's voice. Low, simmering. "You think you've won? Wait until Thursday. They showed up at my door, dressed for war, but I wasn't afraid anymore." Thanksgiving morning broke cold and gray, with the dusting of snow that made the street outside shimmer faintly under the clouded sky. Natalie sat cross-legged on her couch, still in sweatpants, sipping black coffee while the oven preheated. For herself. She had no guest list, no centerpiece, no tension bracing her spine this year. Just peace. And a printed folder of truth. The buzzer rang at 9:14 a.m. She didn't move for a full 10 seconds. Then she stood, set her mug down, and walked to the door. Three figures stood outside her building. Frank in his long camel coat, jaw clenched. Diane in pearls and a maroon coat too thin for the weather, visibly trembling. Logan, hood up, hands in pockets, pacing. She buzzed them in. A moment later, the knock came. She opened the door just enough to let them in, not a step more. They filed in, stiff and wordless. No holiday greetings, just three pairs of eyes full of accusation. "Are you happy now?" Diane's voice broke the silence first, thin and shaking. Natalie gestured toward the couch. "You came all this way. Sit." None of them did. Frank stepped forward, voice low and sharp. "You humiliated us. You embarrassed your mother. You've crossed a line." She tilted her head. "Which one exactly?" "The one that separates family from scam." Diane's eyes brimmed. "Natalie, we weren't going to keep the money. We just needed a little breathing room." "To book balcony suites?" Logan scoffed. "God, not this again." She turned to him. "You posted about a new car. 3 weeks after I wired the money." He smirked. "Coincidence." Natalie walked calmly to the dining table, opened the folder, and handed each of them a paper. Booking confirmation, bank transaction, cancellation receipt. All with dates, account numbers, her name at the top. "I didn't borrow money from you," she said evenly. "You borrowed it from me." Then lied. Logan rolled his eyes, but she could see the muscle twitch in his jaw. "So now what, Nat? You're some kind of victim?" "No," she said. "I'm just done." Before anyone could reply, the apartment door opened again. She had forgotten to relock it. Sophie stood in the doorway, coat still on, holding a pie. "Oh," she said, stopping cold. "Wow." Natalie blinked. "Sophie?" "I stayed in Chicago. Something didn't feel right." She looked at Logan. "You didn't tell me you were coming here?" Logan stammered. I didn't think." She cut him off. "What about the $2,000 you asked me for? You said it was for the Italy tour. Was that a lie too?" The room went still. Sophie's eyes swept to Diane, to Frank, then back to Logan. Logan didn't speak. Natalie inhaled slowly, the room falling into a vacuum of unspoken truths. She stepped toward Diane. Her mother's eyes, watery and unsure, looked back with something almost like fear. "I loved you so much," Natalie said quietly, "that I forgot to love myself." Diane flinched as if slapped. No one moved. No one apologized. Natalie stepped back. "You should go." Frank opened his mouth to object, but she raised a hand. "I'm not debating anymore." They turned, slowly, silently, and stepped into the hallway. Sophie lingered by the door, one hand still holding the pie, the other on the frame. She looked at Natalie. "Call me?" Natalie nodded once. And then, with calm hands and a calm heart, she closed the door. Let them stand in the snow. She didn't say goodbye. There were no turkey, no cranberry sauce, just silence, peace, and the loudest kind of freedom. Natalie placed a single plate on the coffee table. Steamed broccoli, buttered sourdough, a glass of wine. No centerpiece, no polite conversation, no need to accommodate anyone else's appetite. Just warmth in the apartment, candles flickering gently against the soft gold of her living room walls. She sat down cross-legged on the floor, leaned back into the couch, and took a bite. The broccoli was slightly overcooked. She didn't care. Outside, the streetlight flickered. Snow from the morning had mostly melted into slush, but the quiet it brought had lingered. Like the city, too, was taking a breath. Her phone lay untouched beside her. No pings, no tension in her shoulders waiting for it. She reached for the photo album tucked beneath the coffee table drawer. Family, 2010 to 2023. She opened it. Smiling faces. Logan in graduation robes. Her mother holding a birthday cake. Frank raising a glass. Herself in the corner of most photos, arms around someone, eyes never quite at peace. She flipped slowly, page by page. No bitterness, just recognition. A lifetime of trying. Then, with a calm that surprised her, she reached for her phone, opened her photo app, and tapped Select. One by one, she highlighted the digital versions of those same years. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every moment she had tried to believe in something that didn't exist. Then, delete album. A blankness filled her chest, but it wasn't pain. It was space. Her phone buzzed. Carolyn. Natalie smiled and answered. The older woman appeared on screen with a mug of cider and a knit shawl. You alone tonight? Carolyn asked gently. On purpose, Natalie replied. Well, I'm calling with an official invite. Christmas, no speeches, no expectations, just cider and honesty. You in? Natalie nodded. Yeah, I think I am. They talked a few more minutes about snow forecasts and good books, then said goodnight. As she set the phone down, another message popped up. Sophie. I ended it. Thank you for showing me who he really is. Natalie stared at the words, then turned the screen off. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Instead, she stood, washed her plate, blew out the candles, and turned off the lights. The silence wasn't empty tonight. It was earned. She climbed into bed and put her phone on silent. Not out of defiance, but choice. No more waiting for apologies. No more hope misplaced. She slept. The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows. The sky was pale blue. Crisp air curled at the edges of the window pane. Natalie laced her shoes, zipped her jacket, and stepped outside. The pavement was cold, but dry. She jogged slowly at first, breath steady, then faster. Half a block in, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't stop, but she glanced. Diane Harper, next year, if you're up for it, come home. Natalie read the words once, let them sit for a second, then tucked the phone away. She kept running, past the corner store, past the bus stop, past everything that ever told her she had to earn love. And for the first time in years, she ran straight. There was a time when I would have given anything to be loved by them. When I bought the turkey pan, when I folded those napkins into maple leaves, when I waited by the phone and smiled at every breadcrumb of affection, I thought I was earning my place back into a family I never really left. But it turns out, I wasn't missing a place. I was dodging a pit. Thanksgiving used to be a ritual of proving myself. Perfect food, perfect tone, perfect timing. And still, they found a reason to lock me out. This year, the silence said more than any invitation ever could. When they showed up at my door, I didn't flinch. Not when Diane cried about tradition. Not when Frank raised his voice like that was supposed to mean something. Not even when Logan, tried to spin it all as some giant misunderstanding. Because for once, I wasn't playing defense. I had proof. I had perspective. I had peace. I looked into their eyes and saw the thing they feared most, that I no longer needed them to feel whole. It's funny. The night they asked for the $8,000, they acted like Dad was dying. Maybe he was. But not physically. Maybe what was collapsing was their grip on me. And in some twisted way, they sensed it. They fought it the only way they knew how. With guilt, performance, manipulation. But the moment Rachel told me I was the legal payer, something in me clicked. I remembered who I was. Not the daughter who waited to be chosen, but the woman who had built a life, a career, a sense of self. Despite them, not because of them. Canceling that trip wasn't revenge. It was clarity. It was me drawing a line that said, you don't get to keep me small so you can feel big. Sophie saw it too. When she thanked me, I knew I wasn't alone. I knew I had chosen the right kind of quiet. Not submission, but sovereignty. I lit a candle that night, ate my broccoli and buttered bread, and listened to the hum of a world that didn't owe me answers. For the first time in years, I didn't scroll for signs of approval. I didn't replay conversations in my head. I just let it all go. And when that final text came in, next year, if you're up for it, come home. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't even draft a reply. I tied my shoes. I stepped into the cold. And I ran. Forward, not away. Because this isn't a story about being disowned. It's a story about finally claiming what was always mine. The right to stop bleeding for people who never planned to heal me. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. She simply chose not to be used again. Sometimes justice doesn't come wrapped in noise. It arrives in silence, in canceled bookings, in doors left unopened. When betrayal is met with courage instead of collapse, it loses its grip. And no wall of guilt can stand forever against the quiet force of someone who's finally done apologizing for surviving. Some wounds in life don't leave scars on your skin. They carve themselves deep into your memory. The night they called me at midnight, I didn't hesitate. I wired the money. I worried. I hoped. Just trying to keep a father alive. But they took that money, booked ocean view suites, bought first-class tickets, and locked me out for Thanksgiving. The real pain wasn't losing the money. It was realizing that every time I fought to feel loved, they saw me as nothing more than a tool. I used to think forgiveness meant acceptance. Now I know. Forgiveness also means letting go, setting boundaries, and knowing when to say, enough. When I canceled that trip, it wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. When they knocked on my door, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I stood still and let them stay outside. I'm done chasing half-hearted apologies, done waiting for empty promises of next year will be different. Because I've learned, if someone truly loves you, you won't have to question whether you belong. And if you're watching this, and you see pieces of your own story in mine, let me tell you something. You're not selfish for protecting yourself. You're not cold for refusing to be their safety net. One more time. And sometimes, peace comes at the price of cutting ties with people, even if they're called family. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. If you've had a moment like this, don't be afraid to leave a comment below. Tell me about the time you stood up instead of staying silent, about the day you chose peace over repeated hurt. If this story resonated with you, please hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs the reminder that they have the right to say enough. I'll see you in the next story.